Welcome to the webinar Emotions and the Astral Body. My name is Lori Gadina, and I'm your host today. I'm a soul body health coach, author, and speaker. I'm trained in Waldorf education, remedial studies, have underwent the systemic constellations work training, as well as I am a certified holistic health coach. So today we are targeting emotions and how and why they rule us. You might have found that, there's the saying, knowledge is everything. I can tell you it is not. We're going to talk about the astral body and our soul, about pain bodies and the disintegrated soul, and look at inherited emotions and transgenerational trauma. Why do emotions rule us? I want to insert here an interesting observation there. You might have seen on cigarette packages, at least in Germany, where I'm from, they write, all the horrible things that can happen to you if you do smoke, and people still smoke, even though they have the knowledge it's not good for them. They still do it, and I think today you will find out why we do things, although we know so well they're not good for us. Well, just to recap, because this is a series of monthly webinars, part of our Soul Body Connection, a Facebook group that you're so very welcome, if you have not joined yet, to join Soul Body Connection, the Facebook group. And our first webinar was about the etheric body and life forces. And that's where I started out to explain a little bit how I see the human bodies. We talk about the physical body, about the etheric body that carries the life forces and determines how well we can memorize things, how our habit lives and rituals are, and in general, how our vitality is. It's where our health is located. Today we're going to talk about the astral body and emotions, and then the higher self will be another topic soon. The higher self really is the essence of ourselves, where we find our intentions and purpose and our motives, why we're here. So just to recap again, the physical body obviously is born, has a specific birth moment that we then relate to as our date of birth. It's when we are born and take our first breath. The etheric body is, of course, integrated already, because otherwise the baby wouldn't be alive. However, it is freed up to become memory for us once it has stopped working on building the physical body. Of course, a child is still growing once it's 7 years old, and it's still growing. However, the etheric body has done most of its important job, as, for example, adult teeth are provided so that the first set of teeth can fall out. So when the first teeth start to get shaky and fall out, that's when you know that the child has freed up its etheric body from just building the physical body and can now use it for other things like memorizing things. That's when they go to school. You will also recognize that the etheric body is available in other ways when the child can cross the midline. The midline you can see here in the picture. This is the midline. It's a meridian, right? So there's the school test when a child can go to school, that they should take their right hand and touch their left ear. If they take their right hand, touch the right ear, and are reluctant to cross this midline, it tells you there is still something not freed up of the etheric body. The astral body then becomes interesting. It's going to be freed up with 14 years of age, around 14 years, of course, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, usually around 14. And that's really when the adolescence starts. And you can recognize it through mood swings, hormonal shifts, the first hair growth starts, and other things that are so typical for our being an adolescent. That's when we realize this child has emotions. They do have temper tantrums before, and they have emotions before. I'm not saying it's not there. However, it shows up in a different way. It seems more mature. It seems more a thing of its own, not so easy to overcome at some point. And then when the child turns, or actually our young adult turns an adult, the higher self becomes present with 21 years. Again, it becomes earlier and earlier. Some would say with 18. That's really when we start choosing our job, our profession, when we have a better sense of what our purpose in life is, and when our idealism totally kicks in and we understand ourselves as co-creators, if not just as creators of our life. We want to be away from our parents who want to tell us what we should be doing, and we want to make our own mistakes. That's your higher self talking when you're passionate about things and found your idealism. So ideally, every 7 years, there's one of these bodies born and becomes more mature, freed up to be ready to be present for our use. And therefore, we call an 18 to 21-year-old person now an adult. They are fully there. All right. That as an overview. I tell you, this is the concept as we look at it in the Waldorf education. Waldorf schools were founded by Rudolf Steiner, a 1920s, by the founder and owner of the Waldorf Astoria cigarette factory, of all places, asked Rudolf Steiner to come up with a school for the children of his workers. Back then, not everyone was able to go to school, and he, Emil Molt, that's the owner's name, he wanted those students to get educated and get to go have a place to go to school. And so Rudolf Steiner came up with the Waldorf school, for Waldorf Astoria cigarette factories. Now it has nothing to do with cigarette factories anymore, and is a private independent school that you can find throughout the world. There are 200 schools around about in the United States and North America, and about 200 and more in Germany, and probably wherever you're listening from, you can find those schools everywhere almost. And I'm educated in Waldorf education, and this model that I'm showing you here is founded, really grounded in this Waldorf education. The philosophy behind it is called anthroposophy, and you might hear me say that word more often throughout the next 60 minutes. All right. So, but let's get back to emotions. Emotions are really an expression of our soul, and they arise, they rise up and can be fleeting moments, and sometimes they're much more permanent. You can detect them in the astral body. And often, people call it also the aura, and I can see some colors in your aura. Emotions are obviously connected to color. Adolescence is ruled by emotions and mood swings because there are hormonal shifts, so you can explain it through the physical body, but you can also explain it through the incoming of the astral body and being more connected, more engaged in the physical and the etheric bodies, and therefore, providing changes and shifts that happen. You can also often smell that, your adolescent child might start smelling more. So smell is connected to emotions and the astral body. Yes. So now let's look at this though. Why are emotions so prevalent whenever we make decisions. For example, I know I shouldn't be smoking. Well, I'm not smoking, but a smoker might know it's not good for their health and they still do it. And if any addict or any person who has cravings, they know better and still they do it. Why? Except putting aside the addiction element, even though we know something, we still do it, and that is because our emotions rule. Whenever we make a decision, we don't make the decision in the past, we don't make it in the future, we make it now. And that's where we find our emotions. We can have knowledge, our thoughts, and you can see even a thought, whenever you want to try to observe a thought, it is already in the past. It is really hard to observe your thinking at the moment. It's always almost like a little bit in the past. And I think the word thought is so interesting because it already implies this is the simple past. Yeah. And the other element of what brings us to do things is our will force. We decide we are going to do this or that. So we have an active, action-oriented element that is always geared towards the future. Yeah, it's again included in this word will force. We have the will. I will do something. Yeah, to will something towards the future. You can make plans and everything out of your knowledge. You can make plans, you want to lose weight, and you can know that you shouldn't eat all those processed carbs, and you will decide to eat more greens and vegetables. And then you have your emotions. They are sitting there right in the presence. You're sad, you are maybe grieving something, or maybe you're angry, maybe you're bored, maybe you're sleepy. Emotions are in the present and you feel them in this moment. You can remember an emotion from the past and it still feels as if it's now, because the emotion you feel is in the moment. And that what triggers and sets us off to make choices that are not the ones we want to do, we want to make. Makes sense? I hope so, because to me, for me, once I understood how emotions are just sitting there, hindering us to do whatever we want, because if our emotions are not aligned with our will forces, then it's often not working. And if our thoughts, our beliefs are, coming out of experience, for example, I realized, whatever my belief is, that eggs are not good for me, then I can't change that. If I still want to eat eggs because someone else tells me it's really good for me, I will still not do this because my beliefs don't want me to. However, my emotions here are the ones. If I don't like eggs and I feel nauseous whenever I see an egg, or I feel whatever, then I still won't eat the egg. Makes sense, yeah? Good. Okay, so here you see that when the emotions don't play a part, they are interrupting us. They interrupt a lot of things. For example, learning too. As a teacher, I've seen and observed that a lot, that a student who is sad or who is distracted because of their emotional state or wherever they came from in the morning, maybe something happened before they came to school, they can't learn. They are distracted because in the present moment they are occupied with their emotion, and so they won't do anything until we have resolved the emotion, and then we can move on and learn. Yeah. So when you want to change something and you realize your emotion is in the way, you can't overcome this emotion, take a moment, take a step back, look at this emotion, acknowledge it, and find out how you can help yourself to overcome this emotion, to, kindly, not dismissing the emotion as, oh, you know what, you're in my way, I don't want to see you, because then the emotion won't go away. But more in terms of, how can I resolve this emotion and then move on, because usually emotions are just a path that leads us towards something that we want, we need, towards our purpose. Emotions are never fully permanent. Even if you are sad about a loss, you might not feel this 24/7. You might feel this a lot often whenever you think about it, but there might be moments when actually something else happens and you feel hungry, or you feel tired, or you feel there was a joke and you actually laugh about something. So but underlying there might be grief, and underlying there might be sadness. All right. So emotions on different stages and different layers. Now, I observe the human being as a multidimensional being. And here I tried a graphic that I hope makes sense. So this is our human being, our aura and everything in it. And we come, and that is my strong belief, and I hope you can join or follow that in some way, that we don't just appear here once on Earth, but in multiple times. So we have several lives, and throughout the lives that we have, we develop certain certain assignments maybe that we still need to learn or want to acknowledge or want to discover, maybe something we really decide in this lifetime, I want to experience this and that. So we have a purpose, and we bring our past life experiences with us when we incarnate in this special body. So we come already not as a blank page, but we already have lots of chapters in our book of lives, I would say, that our soul brings with it. And then we have a stream of ancestors that through them comes the life force and our gene pool, and everything that makes us part of the family that we come from. And most importantly, our parents, mom and dad, that create us, that offer us this vessel of physical being, helps, these parents help us to have a vessel where the drop of our soul can enter. And then throughout life, we have life experiences, good and bad ones, but they form us. They inform us and they form us. And then we, of course, are placed in a certain country with a certain culture, certain society, with beliefs and consciousness, a communal consciousness that informs us too, and shapes us in a certain way. I'm born in Germany, so for me, the Holocaust and the Second World War have definitely formed me and informed me in a certain way, that I'm highly sensitive to certain type of speech, or highly sensitive to people who are racist, or who try to sow some kind of hatred or dividing elements. So this informed me, living and growing up in that culture, that German culture. So these are 4 elements that I would say are big parts and the major parts of how we are a multidimensional being that is informed in several ways. And this is really my idea of how I would call it. Of course, there's a scientific way of looking at it. So we would say we have purpose, intentions, and a goal. We have a gene pool and epigenetics. I'm going to explain a little bit closer in a moment what that means. This all forms our identity, our life experiences, and then our ethnicity, country of origin, and culture. Really, all of our all the elements that how poor or rich we are, in what type of family we are born, and all that. All right. So let's look at it this way. The same thing, only that I now added thinking, feeling, willing. You might remember it's past, present, and future. Yeah. Those are the three elements that we make us happen and give us choices for life choices, how we step into the world. And now, however, if something in these four elements is not just quite right, then we start in becoming sick or unhappy, feeling stuck, depressed. And I'll show you a little bit about this in a moment. Just to step back for a moment here, the astral body and our soul expressions, they all of that, what I've shown you, what informs us, it forms our astral body, and it forms our soul expressions. Astral body is comes from star. Astra is star. It means the planets, and you find the word again in astrology. The time frames of anything that is soul related is really an hour or a day or a week. Where the life forces have a much longer stretch. Life forces are really more in terms of a moon cycle. Is very clear. It's a month. So 4 weeks to a month, that's kind of how life forces change and shift slowly over time. When you are sick with your liver, you won't feel it because the life forces work in the unconsciousness, in the subconscious. Life forces in the liver, as life is in the liver, show you that it takes a long time to evolve. When your liver is fatty and overloaded, your doctor may tell you that. They may inform you, step back, detox, and all that. But we talk in longer durations. Whereas the organ that is connected to our astral body and our soul expression are the kidneys. It's much more sensitive. When the kidneys are stop functioning, you want to have a doctor with you. When your liver stops functioning, yes, you turn yellow and it's all not good, jaundice and all, but it's not life-threatening in the hour. You can still continue a little bit, and then of course you need help. However, the kidneys, it's much more quicker that you need help. And again, though, you can't feel it really. I mean, yes, there is some ache that you can feel with kidneys depending what's happening. Kidney stone you can feel. Next to it are the adrenal glands. So there's already something that processes stress and reacts to stress. So you can feel it's connected to whatever is happening on a soul level. The astral body and your soul expression is also connected to the kingdom of animals, whereas life forces is more connected to the plants. And therefore, animal guides are a great source, for example, if you want to do a journey with your soul. I said earlier too that you can tell when the astral body is freed up and ready and born within you, because you start having a scent. And that is kind of like a plant that grows and grows with all its life forces. And where it's kind of the astral body of the earth when a flower blossoms and starts smelling. Yeah. Everything else etheric is the life force of the earth. But then once you have a flower, you find there's a scent, and that is really much more astralic energy to it. We often connect emotions and emotional messages, love messages, with flowers. And then you have the spectrum in your soul expressions, anything between instincts all the way up to intentions. You can be reactive with your emotions, or you can be in control of your emotions and put them more towards passion and intention and a purpose. Of course, there we already hint towards your higher self and your essence. Your soul really, traveling through the ages, picks up on special characters and traits that you hone and bring forth, which then people can find in their astrology chart. When you're born, you already come with certain traits, right? So that's kind of what is in the stars, how you're born. That's where your soul expression and your astral body kind of get have a blueprint, that is connected. All right. So, however, it's not always rosy and easygoing. Sometimes we have trauma, and then our soul disintegrates. And this is what I'm showing here. So imagine you come with a past life experience and a purpose, and before we enter our life, we get kind of a preview, a panoramic preview of what is going to happen in terms of qualities, not in terms of facts of, you will get a divorce and then you will have a miscarriage and then this will happen. Probably not as much in this, as much more qualities of what chances you might get, but also setbacks maybe. So it could happen that while you look down, you realize that you don't really want to come, that this is really nothing you want to sign up for, and you prefer to stay up in heaven, a little bit longer. And I call that an interrupted incarnation process. It can happen also later that a part of you're fully incarnating, but as you know, it takes 21 years for all those bodies to fully ripen and come closer. And if anything happens during the life experience, you might decide this is not worth being here on Earth, and I rather want to be up here. Yeah, so that is one potential setback that we can encounter when we don't fully want to incarnate. And the part of our soul stays back. Another thing that could happen is that our ancestors had so much trauma that we don't want to, that we actually want to help them, and we inherit a certain part of the trauma. And this is the biggest aspect I'm going to talk about today, much more in detail, what that means and entails. But in this case, you can see there's a part of our soul that we took out because it's too painful to look at it, and so we put it aside. I also mentioned the life experiences when trauma hits, or adversity, or whatever setback we might experience, that result in a lot of emotional pain, and that is so hard to endure that our body puts it aside, so that we might look at it again once we are ready to endure and survive this type of pain. But sometimes we carry it splintered around this way for a long, long time, decades, or even a full lifetime. And then it can happen that even when we are born, wherever we are born, the country of origin, we experience adversity and discrimination because of our ethnicity, because of our religion, because of whatever it is, sometimes there are these moments too. And here I placed the little piece of the soul, not fully connected, but slightly just set aside. And sometimes the bond stays right there. You can imagine there's always a thin thread that connects us to the pain body, as I might call it, but it's Sometimes it's more connected and sometimes it's less. So that really depends on how severe the pain was, or the emotional impact. I hope all this makes sense. So that's really a little bit more cleaned up. What happens throughout our life, we have all these informing factors, these 4 factors, and whenever something happens, we might decide to disintegrate a part of our soul that we split off to stay sane. This is our human being part here, our identity. However, when we move on through life, we realize maybe at one point we feel stuck in life. We don't feel that we are really connected to our life, and that we have the feeling we can't move on, or that we feel uprooted and not connected to our people, that we don't have a tribe. We might feel unsupported by our ancestors, or by our parents in most cases, that we feel excluded from our family. And when we don't know our purpose, why we are here, we are missing the light, and often that results in depression, and feeling passionless, no passion. Sometimes it can result in anxiety, whatever you can imagine. Without knowing where you want to go, it's might not make sense why we are here at all. So suicide can start here, but also suicide can happen here if we're too aligned with an ancestor who did suicide, and we want to remember that member. I'll talk about that later, but suicide can sometimes be something that is passed on in certain ways. Yeah. So this, of course, looks horrible in this, but it's actually quite true in many ways, that in certain factors we are disintegrated and disconnected in certain parts from ourselves, more or less. So I would like to talk about this special part here that I have in a box. So that's the epigenetics and inherited emotions. Especially today. There will be other webinars when I can talk more about the past life experiences and how they affect us today, as well as adversity and illness through our life experiences. Or I think this element, the society and culture and cultural impacts, they are there, and it's not easy always to heal them in that big spectrum. Often they are related to our ancestors, or directly to life events. So that, this is a big part, and actually in terms of immigration, that is an element that we need to connect. That's right. So how do I inherit emotions? As long as an event in the past holds a strong emotional charge in the family system, a member of the family will take this emotion on, this charge, out of love to the parents and the family. That's how we inherit an emotion. That's really when we are up in heaven and we look down on this landscape of our life, and where we come from with our family system, we do love our parents, and we do love the family system. And we might see that in this family system there's a need for a certain cause, something, an event that needs to be more acknowledged. There is something unresolved, and the family system would often enlist the youngest generation to take that on, to make it known again, or to a family member. So causes for strong emotions in the family system that like grief, anger, depression, of course love as well, but really other strong emotions that are not just these little flings of, oh yeah, I don't feel right now, I'm a little bit moody, but it's really more an underlying general sadness maybe, or a general resignation, or in general anger, that we can detect as a more of a permanent experience. So these causes are in the family system in the past: war and war crimes, famine, sexual abuse or physical abuse, drug abuse, a sudden death in the family through an illness, an accident, a shooting. War can again be part of that. It could also be a miscarriage of a child, or a stillbirth, or suicide. All these are sudden deaths that came so fast that the family members who were impacted didn't have time to adjust, and the grief and the surprise and the shock might have been so deep that people decided, not they don't decide this consciously, but the subconscious, the soul will split this off and put it aside and say, I can't deal with this right now, I have to function, I have to keep the family alive, so I can't deal with my own grief, I have to I have to be able to work. So other things that could be part of a strong emotion are mental illness, like schizophrenia and depression, bipolar disease, many others probably, phobias and psychosis and narcissism. You name them. Then a financial distress or poverty. I've seen in family systems that the Great Depression had a big impact on families until now. Yeah, I have to say that, until now. Immigration is a part, and the necessity to leave the country of origin. Why did they have to leave? Maybe there was famine, maybe there was war. There are reasons why people come, and then there are sometimes joyful reasons why they come, and still there might be an emotion why someone else didn't want to come. Divorce, adoptions, and other causes for being disconnected with family. For children, often, when you're adopted, you might want to have a connection to your birth mother or birth father in some way or the other. Otherwise, you feel this disconnect and might feel stuck. If it's kept as a family secret, it's even worse, because you don't know about it, that you might want to have that chance to meet your birth parents. And other existential threats really can cause strong emotions in the family system if they are not dealt with. If I once talked to someone who told me about the sexual abuse incident, and that did not hold any charge. It didn't hold an emotional charge. It seemed this was taken care of by the parents in the moment when it was ready. There was support for the child back then, and it seemed it didn't leave a big mark on this woman's life, which is amazing. You don't really often hear that, but it can happen. So that it might have happened, it might still be in the family history, but it's not it doesn't hold a charge anymore, and then no one has to pick it up. Only those emotions are picked up by family members, the next generations, if it hasn't been dealt with. So what can you do? What does it need to resolve an inherited emotion? First of all, it's helpful to discover the underlying cause for the current emotion, for this inherited emotion. And once you know the cause, as we just looked at all these different causes, acknowledging what has happened is really important. and then allowing for other family members to acknowledge and possibly resolve the unresolved, unlived emotions as grief, despair, love, anger, and so on. I don't mean that literally. I mean that more in terms of an energetic way. And I will show you or tell you about one method that I use where that really works well. You don't need those family members to be present or alive. Yeah, these sometimes inherited emotions can go back up to 7 generations. And once you have that resolved, you can leave the emotions and beliefs that resulted out of that. Maybe even you made promises. You can leave them where they belong, especially with the specific ancestors. Yeah. Okay. And all of that can be done with family systemic constellation work. Family systemic constellation work was described or derived by Bert Hellinger, a person from Germany, a therapist from Germany, who observed the Zulu people and their healthy family systems. And he realized that what we might be missing. And he came up with the order of love, where certain things just should be present in a system. Everyone should belong. There should be a healthy give and take between couples. And there needs to be a clear hierarchy of who came first. And this is called the seniority. It's not who is better or who has more money, who is the on top of everything, but really more in terms of who is the oldest person and who passed on life to whom. In this way, family systemic constellation work can help go these 4 steps and really look at these emotions, whatever has not been resolved, and do this in a healthy way. So that's where we were looking at ancestors that had traumatic experiences, and the trauma was inherited or passed on to you. You decided you also can really help yourself and deal with it, or you do just as everyone else did. You take this aside, and constellation work can help you resolve all of that. Yeah, so that life forces can flow again, as well as love can flow freely. Epigenetics I had mentioned before as a word, and I want to quickly say that the science now is catching up to what we've been seeing for the past 3 decades in family systemic constellation work as a phenomenon. Epigenetics explains that our genes are embedded in a protein, and the stressors of trauma and just stress by itself and shock can change the outside coding almost of the genes and activate or deactivate them, make them active or passive. And when something gets activated in the genes that your ancestors didn't have activated necessarily, but you get it activated because you inherited trauma, then if the genes are not necessarily, don't have to be activated, but it is part of your family lineage, that maybe a certain cancer gene or whatever it would be mutates and is activated, and then this happens that you get an illness out of that, a disease. But only because of the stressors, not because it is passed on to you as the genetic disposition. It's really more the stress and the trauma around it. And if you think about it, the eggs of a mother, of a woman, the eggs are starting to grow when the fetus, when you start growing in so a baby is conceived and it starts growing its eggs in the womb of that mother. So these eggs are you in your mother's body, being a baby in her mom's, in your grandmother's womb. So what your grandmother experiences, your egg that became you later already experiences. So I, for example, would have been present World War II as an egg, but those were my genes. That was my gene pool. So certain stressors that my grandmother experienced, my genes already experienced, my little cells. And just to understand, there's already a scientific understanding of how far back that can go. And now energetically, we can even look further. All right. I hope I make sense here. If there are any questions, please do comment in the Facebook group Soul Body Connection. If you're not part of that yet, please go over to Facebook and sign up. I would love to have you in the group if this is of interest to you. So, why is it so important, though, to have your emotions in check? Can't you just live a little bit with this one soul part, apart, whatever? Often people do come through and seem to be fairly happy. Well, one more aspect of this is that we lead with our self, our higher self. This is the one, even though it is kind of more present when we become adults, it still informs how our emotional life, how our emotions and our thoughts and our soul life is present. And when we have our emotions in disarray and are moody and neglecting of our emotions, that directly informs how our life forces are arranged and are organized, are being helped within our body. As I said earlier, when a child is sad or is angry, it can't learn, then it can't memorize, so it can't access its etheric body and its life forces. And that already shows you that how important it is to have the emotions cleaned up in order to be ready to learn. So for an adult, this could mean if you don't get the depression under control, your etheric and physical body in the end will experience certain drops of you might not be able to process to get the vitamin D going, or you might be lacking nutrients or phytonutrients in the end that the doctor then can find in your blood that something is missing. But often it has a connection to your emotional life. It's not always, oh, my body is not functioning, so that's why I feel moody. Often it's really more you're moody, and this kind of trickles down into your health and how your physical body then is capable of dealing with the world and dealing with toxins and dealing with whatnot. It doesn't mean you only need to take care of your emotions in order to become healthy. It also needs support in the physical realm, for example, with medication or supplements. But it is a combination of all of these. So far, our general medicine is just focusing on the physical body. And then on our mind, often it's the mind and the body. But to me, this part here is super important, that we get a better understanding of how our soul can become healthy and our life forces can be ready to be utilized in a healthy way, and how they can grow and not be stifled. Like having a good habit life of sleep and drinking water and all of that. I'd mentioned that in the webinar before. So this is almost getting us to the end of this. I really try to gear this webinar towards content and more of informing you more and giving you ideas of how we set up, and what changes when we change something in ourselves, and how we can help ourselves to become healthy, happy living beings. And I hope this is informational for you. I do give workshops that are called ancestral healing. So they gear towards your ancestors and what they what they come with and what you took on for them out of love, because we all love our family, even if we have ourselves excluded or were excluded. There is this deep rooted need to belong, and we would often do anything, even of not being successful, not being happy, staying in relationships that are not the ones we really want to have, or denying ourselves relationships. There are many ways how we can sabotage ourselves just so that we can belong to the family. And this ancestral healing workshop is really amazing and profound healing work for you and your family system, and also for your children. If you take care of yourself and don't pass it on to your children, then you cut the pattern, you stop the pattern. And that can be a pattern of anxiety, of depression, of suicide, of obesity. There are many patterns that we find in our family system that go on for generations, and it's time to stop. And this is for you, this workshop. If you're local in the Northeast of the United States, you are welcome to join me on a Sunday, June 5th in Hohokus, New Jersey, or on Saturday, June 18th in Woodbury, Connecticut at a New Morning Market, a natural food store. Both of these workshops are about 3 to 4 hours, and please visit my website for more information, as well as other upcoming workshops in the future. You can also contact me through my website and ask for more input. Can you work on your own with this? Do you have to be part of a group in order to do constellation work and ancestral healing? Not necessarily. But I would say workshops are amazing. The group energy is much higher and much more productive and profound. When you do it yourself with me, it works. But for some, especially deep traumatic ancestral experiences, I sometimes actually recommend at least the in-person experience, not only through Skype or Zoom as I use webcam. It does work, but again, some of these more bigger boulders in our lives, I like to actually be there in person. Although cyberspace and the World Wide Web is awesome in so many things, I do believe that, if I go back, that the physical body and the physical touch is part of our holistic, of our makeup. If you just stay on this level here without really feeling a touching, or get a certain type of look from someone of being really truly seen, sometimes that really is just mostly treasured in a personal experience. So that's my big point here. All right. However, individual work does exist, and I do an incarnation ritual, and this kind of hints towards your soul purpose, or the interrupted incarnation process that could have happened. I do have a ritual that is actually a spiral, as I show it here, that gives you the opportunity for your soul to start up in heaven and walk the spiral with me down to your physical body, so that you truly come home. Yeah, it's a homecoming. It's incarnating all the way through all the bodies into your physical body. Again, as we are born with our different bodies throughout the 7 years steps of our young child, then adolescent, then adult life, there are moments when we decide not to fully incarnate And in those moments, we still might carry some despair or feeling stuck or depression. And this incarnation ritual is amazing. It takes 2 hours. And you will feel that afterwards you truly arrived at home on earth in your body, right? So this I give this for the first 3 people who contact me because they've seen this webinar. It's 150, and usually though it does cost 250. So it's a really precious ritual that I can only recommend for healing. And it does always, as this is my work, I always integrate ancestors and family. All right. So this is the end of our webinar. Oh, I'm so good. It's 58:56, so it took us 56 minutes, as I said. And if there are any more questions, please do ask them in the Facebook group, Soul Body Connection. I would love to hear from you what your thoughts are. And so with this, I conclude Emotions and the Astral Body. The next webinar will again be about the interactions between astral body and the etheric body and what that does with illness, pain, and disease. So stay tuned. I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you. Bye.